The Second World War was the most devastating conflict in human history. It lasted from 1939 to 1945 and involved countries across every continent, leaving tens of millions dead and reshaping the political, economic, and social order of the world. The war was not an isolated event but the result of unresolved issues from the First World War, economic crises, and the rise of aggressive totalitarian regimes that pursued expansion and domination. At the end of World War I, Germany had been forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. The treaty imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including heavy reparations, military restrictions, and the loss of territories. This created deep resentment within the German population. The country's economy collapsed in the 1920s and 1930s, particularly after the Great Depression, and people became desperate for strong leadership. Out of this chaos rose Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist Party, known as the Nazis. Hitler promised to restore Germany's pride, rebuild its military strength, and reclaim lost lands. Once in power, he dismantled the treaty's restrictions, rebuilt the army, and began pursuing aggressive expansion. Germany was not the only country turning to militarism. In Italy, Benito Mussolini and his fascist government sought to build a new Roman Empire, invading Ethiopia in 1935 and expanding influence in North Africa. In Japan, military leaders took control of government policy, pushing expansion in Asia. Japan had already invaded Manchuria in 1931 and launched a full-scale war against China in 1937. These moves signaled that the world was moving toward another major conflict. The immediate cause of the Second World War was Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. Hitler had already annexed Austria in 1938 in what was called the Anschluss, and later that year, he demanded and received the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia. In 1939, German forces took the rest of Czechoslovakia. Britain and France, who had tried to avoid conflict by following a policy of appeasement, finally drew the line when Hitler targeted Poland. On September 3, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany, officially beginning World War II. The early years of the war saw rapid German victories using a military strategy called Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. This involved fast, coordinated attacks by tanks, planes, and infantry, overwhelming enemy defenses. Poland was quickly defeated and divided between Germany, the Soviet Union, who had secretly signed a non-aggression pact in August 1939, agreeing to split Eastern Europe between them. In 1940, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway, followed by Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. France fell in just 6 weeks, shocking the world. Britain was left standing alone against Germany. In the summer of 1940, Germany launched the Battle of Britain, a massive air campaign intended to force Britain to surrender. German bombers targeted cities and military sites, but the British Royal Air Force, using new radar technology and strong public resolve, resisted successfully. Hitler eventually abandoned the plan to invade Britain, turning his focus eastward. Meanwhile, the war expanded. In 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history. At first, the German advance was rapid, capturing huge swaths of territory, but the campaign soon slowed. The Soviet Union's vast size, harsh winter, and determined resistance turned the tide. Cities like Leningrad endured brutal sieges, while Moscow held firm against German assaults. Later, the Battle of Stalingrad in 1940 to 1943 became a turning point, with Soviet forces encircling and destroying an entire German army. The war in Asia was also escalating. Japan, seeking to dominate the Pacific, launched a surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The attack crippled much of the U.S. Pacific Fleet and killed thousands. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. This brought America fully into the war, shifting the balance of power. From 1942 onward, the war became truly global. In North Africa, German forces under General Erwin Rommel, known as the Desert Fox, clashed with British and Allied troops. Eventually, the Allies won key victories, including the Battle of El Alamein, and pushed Axis forces out of Africa. In the Pacific, the United States fought Japan in major naval battles such as Midway in 1942, where American aircraft carriers inflicted a decisive defeat on the Japanese Navy. Island by island, the Allies began to push Japan back. The war in Europe reached its climax with the Allied invasion of Normandy, France, on June 6, 1944, known as D-Day. This massive operation saw American, British, Canadian, and other Allied troops land on the beaches of northern France, opening a new front against Germany. Over the following months, Allied forces liberated France and pushed into Germany from the west, while the Soviet Union advanced from the east. By April 1945, Soviet troops had entered Berlin, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker, and Germany surrendered on May 7, 1945. In Asia, the war continued until August 1945. The United States dropped two atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing over 100,000 people and demonstrating the devastating power of nuclear weapons. Faced with overwhelming destruction, Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. This marked the end of World War II. The consequences of the war were immense. An estimated 70 to 85 million people died, making it the deadliest conflict in history. The Holocaust, carried out by Nazi Germany, systematically murdered 6 million Jews along with millions of others, including Romani people, political prisoners, and disabled individuals. Cities across Europe and Asia lay in ruins, economies were shattered, and millions were displaced. Politically, the war led to the decline of old empires and the rise of two superpowers, the United States, the Soviet Union. Their rivalry shaped the Cold War era that followed. The United Nations was created in 1945 to promote peace and cooperation, replacing the failed League of Nations. Colonial independence movements gained momentum, as weakened European powers could no longer hold onto their overseas empires. World War II permanently changed the global order. It ended with the defeat of fascism, the spread of democracy in Western Europe and Japan, and the beginning of nuclear warfare. The war left behind lessons of the dangers of unchecked aggression, the consequences of appeasement, and the importance of international cooperation to prevent future global conflicts.